And welcome. Let people tune in. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you. I had to sit the last one out because yes, it's a wonderful Allen and Heath mixer I'm using over here. I'm a big Allen and Heath fan, but it's only the Z10. There's only 4 mic inputs. So when there's 4 mic inputs and 5 people, I'll take one for the team and sit out. So
I'm dead without you. So you did a great job.
Oh well, thank you. I appreciate the accolades.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. And we're staying on the same theme here tonight.
The same theme.
Same theme.
Board of Education.
Board of Education. Something that you have, Chris. You have kids in the school district yourself.
I have 3 kids. I have 2 kids at J.P. Stevens High School, a senior right now, and a sophomore.
Right.
And my youngest son, James, just entered Woodrow Wilson Middle School. He's in 6th grade.
I don't have any kids, but I care about the future. We talk about this all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
We put all the stuff aside. I care deeply about where, the future generation is headed, and
right.
How our money's being spent, and making sure that the kids are always put first. I think we lose track of that, and that brings us to our next introduction here, and is Mr. Yash Pandya. Yash is running column 3 for the Board of Education. And Yash, how are you tonight?
Gentlemen, I'm doing very well tonight.
Excellent.
I'd like to thank Chris, Anthony for having me on our Edison Now podcast platform. Very excited to be here. Very excited to be talking to you gentlemen this evening.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yash, you're running for the Board of Ed. Somebody told me that you were the youngest candidate. I don't understand why that's relevant or not. But first of all, what made you fill out the petition to put in for a candidacy? What made you actually do? Why? What got you to this point?
It's a really good question. A lot of folks have been asking me that question. Being young, what is my drive? What is my passion to run for the Edison Board of Education? So I'll give you folks a little bit of a background about myself. So
Excellent.
Been living in Edison over 20 years now. I attended Linden Elementary, then Herbert Hoover, and then for my high school, I attended Middlesex County Academy. It's a vocational technical school in Edison, but it's county level school.
Right.
So I speak to a lot of kids in Herbert Hoover, in the high schools in Edison, JP, and I have a small team of youth individuals, young individuals who want to be involved with the community more from a social standpoint. But they're also my friends, and they come to me sometimes for advice, when it comes to career, when it comes to academics, and they speak to me socially and informally, and they share with me some of their ideas and thoughts as to what's wrong in our schools and how their voice is not being heard. So, it clicked in my mind that, I'm a product of our fantastic Edison school district, and I've been part of our public school system. So why don't we run for a board position so that we can be a voice for the students?
Right.
We can be someone of the students, by the students, and for the students.
I see that on your, I've seen some of your videos online. I got to admit, I haven't been paying too close of attention to everything. I got my own things going on, but I do hear you bring that up a lot, though, the students. And we had some candidates up here before you, and I brought this point up to them as well, and that I think sometimes we lose focus of what we're here for, which is the students.
Yep.
I hear a lot about vendors, okay? And again, I question people's motives, because why are we speaking so much about vendors when we talk less about the students? So I'm glad to hear you say that. You get on the Board of Education, let's say, if you're lucky enough to win. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? It's a 3-year term. What would you like to see happen in those 3 years?
So one of the things I want to see accomplish, or let's not say accomplish, but let's say accomplish from a sense where we want to take a step forward towards that accomplishment. What I would like to start focusing on is one of our biggest issues is overcrowding. Folks have been talking about overcrowding. I've spoken to many parents in the past few years.
Is it still a concern? Is it still because I don't hear I don't hear many people talking about it.
Absolutely,
Okay.
overcrowding is terribly at large right now, and folks say that before COVID, before the pandemic was there, that they felt it physically because of close proximity with students. But now, with hybrid learning going on, it's even more at large. We're seeing technological issues, we're seeing pressures on faculty because of overcrowding, and even students, right? Being at remote learning, they're facing some issues there. But back to overcrowding. Overcrowding is essentially one of our largest hot topics in our Edison Board of Education, and I think my first piece that I want to do is take a step towards resolving that. And I think the way that we should start doing it is we should start thinking from the perspective of students, right? I think for the BOE, we need to bring our focus back to our students, and we need to start working bottom up. At the moment, we're working top-bottom. What I mean by top to bottom is we're very much heavily focused on strategic initiatives like taxpayer money. How do we reduce that? Vendors,
Yeah.
Let's start working bottom up where we're thinking from a student's perspective, right? How are the students feeling? When we work from bottom up, not only are we incorporating targeted and effective solutions, but we're also building a sense of transparency with our taxpayers, right? When someone asks the board or the superintendent's administrative team, where did this money go? We can confidently and proudly say that, hey, this student issue was identified.
Right.
This is how we assess the risk. And this is how we incorporated and carried out the initiative. That's building transparency amongst our taxpayers too, which is one of the issues.
Right.
The second piece for overcrowding is we want to start focusing on how do we resolve it, right? Without increasing taxpayer money. And we want to maximize the value of taxpayer money.
Right.
One of the best examples in terms of solutionizing this opportunity is let's look at our neighboring town, Woodbridge. Woodbridge incorporated and built a new school without raising a single penny in taxes.
That's true.
How did they do that? How do you guys think they did?
Well, they did it. They did what they did was they had a tax in lieu of what is it called?
Pilot program.
Pilot program.
That's right.
And so what they did was they did a pilot program because they had a bond referendum on the same day, Chris, that we had our bond referendum. That terrible bond referendum that I didn't support it, but on March 10th, I remember the date. Woodbridge had the same bond. Theirs was for like $100 million or something. But
It was 40.
It was 40 million. They were getting a new school. I believe a brand new school with the
Yeah.
money. Ours is for $200 million. We were getting no new schools. And then they go, oh well, the schools would have cost this, that. No, the government, because you have a good mayor over there. Well, that was. I don't know. I don't live in the town. I don't want to say.
No, it's John McCormick, right?
Yeah, John McCord. But he's hands on. He works with the Board of Education at least. We don't get that here right now, unfortunately. So
Yeah. So I mean, going off of that point, right? You brought up some great points with that pilot program incorporated in Woodbridge. What happened was they focus on areas of real estate in the town that's not revenue producing or barren land, right? And they convert it into some kind of more effective pilot, essentially, with businesses. Edison does the same, but they have not tied up with the BOE currently. And I think to resolve that overcrowding, we need to take that first step forward. Let's bring the focus back to our students, right? Let's work together as one BOE. Let's not be siloed. Let's work in the community together. Let's work with the mayor. Let's work with our planning board, right? Let's come to a unified solution that's for the community. And it starts with our students, because our students are the future for our community. So when we start thinking from that mindset, from that perspective, right, not only are we resolving overcrowding, but we're also keeping politics out of education, because our focus is for our students, right? Edison Board of Education motto is nothing less than excellence. Excellence, in my opinion, is not achieved when you siloed. We must perform, we must act, and we must carry out everything we do as a community. Our students are our focus here, and we need to move forward as a community to help them.
Right. So I'm going to go back to overcrowding just for a moment.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on technology. So we actually have remote learning going on right now.
Right.
It might go to some type of hybrid solution in the near future. Okay. Do you see technology playing a role in reducing overcrowding? So, for instance, I see my kids doing schoolwork from at home, for the past X amount of months. And I'm thinking to myself, since all this can be done from home, do we really need snow days anymore?
True.
Right?
Absolutely.
Or if you're a kid like me, so I missed my last month of I missed my last month of high school because I actually had a surgery and I had to stay off my feet.
Okay.
Remote learning like this would actually help me not
Right.
even skip a beat. I could
Right.
just remote in, still keep still keep off my feet, heal up, and
Right.
and get back going. If you don't mind, I want to ask your thoughts about, using technology, maybe improving on technology to maybe solve, it could be overcrowding or some other issues that the district face.
Absolutely.
So I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Chris, you bring up a very good point about technology. I think technology is our future, right? We're going into that kind of digital age with a lot of technology involved. And some of the work students do, like project-wise, it's all technology-based, right? So when it comes to overcrowding, I started thinking about this idea where why have we been thinking about remote learning now with COVID? Why have we not? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. No.
Why haven't we thought about this before? Like you were saying,
Well, maybe because we were forced to, and we didn't need to be
Right.
proactive about it. That could be it. I don't know. Just saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And this is where like that comes up another idea, which I'll share in a moment. But I think even before COVID, we should have started thinking about this kind of remote learning aspect.
Right.
I'm not saying let's eliminate in-person classes because 100% I believe that students should go to school. It's a different experience.
Yeah, agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
I will say this though.
Yeah.
2 years ago, when I ran for the Board of Education,
Yeah.
Yash, all right, feels like a long time ago, but there was an ETA debate. You can go back and watch it, and I brought up at that time, the future is here already. This is 2 years ago, and what I called was and in front of the teachers and the educators, I said I worried about their position in the future and the way teaching will be taught. And I said there's going to be this to save money because the state is broke. Our state is dead broke. And when you hear about, and we're going to get into this in a second, when you hear about how are we going to solve certain stuff, or how are we going to fight for our fair share, and I always said this. I said this at 2 debates. I said, well, how are you going to go to the state for more money and get our fair share when every district's going to do that and the state's broke? So eventually the state will not have any more. And you see this, the cuts that the state's giving these districts. So I said this 2 years ago that there will be this virtual classroom. It'll be a teacherless classroom in a sense where you won't have a classroom. It'll just basically be kids jumping online. And I brought up this whole idea of a way to combat salary, a way to healthcare costs, overcrowding. And I'm not even saying I'm a fan of it because I'm really not. I'm more of an old school guy where I'd rather have the kids in the school, except if they were high school upper high school students, juniors and seniors, where they
Right.
could handle the virtual stuff.
Yeah, they have the maturity to do
They have
it.
the maturity to do it, exactly.
Right.
But I worried about that, and I said this 2 years ago. I said that, and nobody else brought it up. There was crickets in the room, but we're here now, and the remote learning it's here. This is the dry run, if you would. Okay, it's not going away. It's how it's going to be incorporated into the classrooms. And are you for remote learning, incorporating it, or what's your thoughts on how we should use it going forward after the virus?
Right. No, that's a very good question. And personally speaking, I think kids should go to school, right? And there's many reasons for that because the learning aspect is one piece, right? Learning can be done remotely or in school,
Right.
but I think there's additional advantages of going to school, right? The
Absolutely.
social aspect,
That's
the
it.
recreational aspect.
Yep.
Agreed.
But again, right, we're at a speed bump, I want to say, which is overcrowding.
Right.
Right? And to help us combat that together,
Right.
with helping our community, taxpayers, how do we do that, right? And we should start incorporating some of these remote learning strategies,
Right.
for overcrowding. Like Chris, you just mentioned, right? I think we should start, targeting some specific classes that can be effectively taught on remotely,
Yeah, right.
And the same level of teachings from a faculty perspective and a student comprehension perspective is achieved, right? And if we need to really understand truly what does that curriculum look like, we have so many benchmarks around us. We have Middlesex County College. We have Rutgers University nearby.
Right.
And we also have a county-wide institution, my high school.
Right.
right? Where multiple different BOEs are essentially coming together
Right.
in that school.
Right.
So we should start benchmarking, for this kind of perspective too, to really understand what does this curriculum look like,
Right.
And I think it can really help us in the long run with overcrowding.
Chris, I don't know, and I'd love to know both of you guys' points. How about like we had this overcrowding task force that was put together that I thought was a big waste of time. Didn't really accomplish much because we're still here, and I don't think throwing money at the problem is the answer, unless we're getting a new school involved, and it was coming from we were getting help from the county and the state, which we are not right now. If we're just asking for the taxpayer for more money, then it's absolutely
I think we could point out multiple examples throughout the state where throwing money at the problem is by no means a solution at all.
No, it's not.
It's not. It could help facilitate some programs and things of the sort, but unless you have the willingness to drive some of these programs home, the money is just that, really, just money. Is not the money alone is not going to translate into a successful school district.
No.
So other things that get roped into overcrowding is not just classroom size, but it's also busing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's also a lot of the peripherals that aren't necessarily obvious, to a lot of people because they just, like a parent like myself, we go to back to school night, we can see how crowded the hallways are, but I'm sure there's other things like busing. Who knows? Maybe cafeteria services or things of the sort that are affected as well.
So what I think, a solution I would come up with, I'm just thinking out loud here, is a task force maybe or a collaboration with, let's say Yash is on the Board of Education as a board member. They put together, and our very good board president Ralph Errico puts together maybe a committee that looks into the remote learning aspect of it, where you maybe set up a task force or a committee group where you had other board members, and members of the PTO, the PTA, and you guys work together thinking about ways you guys could incorporate the virtual learning aspect.
Yeah.
I don't, because listen, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but you talk to, I think that's how you guys should go about doing it, because I'm sure there is a way that you guys could incorporate that without it hurting the social aspects and stuff that you talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a very good point. Excuse me. I think from the task force perspective is a great idea, but I do want to highlight upon one thing you said, Anthony.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that we should work upon is building that communication with
Absolutely.
our stakeholders.
Yeah.
Who are our stakeholders, guys? Our stakeholders are the students, the parents, the teachers, ultimately, right? And we need to make sure as BOE members that our communication, our dedication with our stakeholders is at full. And the level of transparency, the level of communication to carry out these kind of task forces need to be established, right?
Absolutely.
Not just for this kind of task force, but I'm seeing in general too, There should be some kind of model where BOE members have an active participation with these stakeholders. There should be a student forum for the high schools. There should be a middle school forum.
Yeah,
that kind of model needs to be established because because let me go back. Let me zoom out a little bit. Let me go into our BOE meetings, right? Fantastic BOE meetings, right? Every BOE member comes in with great ideas, but what's missing in those BOE meetings is the participation, right? Many people are not fully attending these meetings, right? Sometimes people tell me that, hey, I'm on Zoom or I'm watching on TV. But, the same issues that we discuss are the same issues, that I've spoken to parents about, to teachers about, to students about. Now the message is not being conveyed, right? And I think we have over 100,000 people in our Edison community, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we should have at least 1% of them even come to these meetings. 1%.
We don't have that.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, it's far. Well, it's more like 0.1.
Well, look,
if on a good day.
It is, and I said I came up with two, and I don't know if you would agree with these. I'm not running, but just some ideas that because you're young, and I think that's what this type of forum is for.
Right.
So one idea that I always thought of was PTOs, specifically PTOs, should be more, I think, at the meetings. They should rotate. Come up with some type of formulation where PTOs always have a seat inside all the board meetings, and they can report back to their constituents, so to speak.
Yeah.
Number two is, I think they need to have more student involvement.
Absolutely.
I came up last year. I came up with this idea where they should have the student council report, where every action meeting at each high school would you have. So when it's the action meetings at JP Stevens, you have the JP Stevens vice president, class president, and vice president of this class give an update to the board of what's going on in the school.
Absolutely.
It might be nonsense of a bunch of nothing, but you probably will learn something. The board will learn something from the students' report that they wouldn't know. You're getting it firsthand. Like, hey guys, the students can come in here and say, hey guys, listen, our bathrooms aren't working, or this isn't working. We need this stuff that you're not going to hear at a regular board meeting.
Absolutely.
Get that once a month, so you rotate it. Every other month will be at Edison High, at JP Stevens.
There you go.
So I believe in that. I believe we need more involvement. And listen, I fought. We got live streaming. I went Facebook Live a lot, and part of the reason why we have live streaming now through YouTube is because of me going in there, and I'm proud of that work. And now more people can watch the Board of Ed meetings.
Right.
But we need more town involvement.
Right.
We do need
Agreed.
more from everybody, I think.
Yeah.
Right, agreed. And when you're mentioning stakeholders earlier, I agree. The people that you mentioned are definitely stakeholders, but I think there's also one other key area, and that is the taxpayer who doesn't have any children in the school.
Like myself.
Whoa, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In one thing, I had asked Board of Education candidates last year, okay, when, was it 1 or 2 years ago?
No, it was last year.
It was last year. It was actually about the school funding formula. And when you look at the amount of money that Edison gets, from the state, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I want to say that it was around $1,300 per student.
Close, yeah.
Okay, close.
Yeah.
And that compared to $1,100 per student in Princeton, and I think it was maybe $2,800. If I'm not mistaken, everybody, I'm trying to recall off of my memory here, like about $2,800 a student in neighboring South Plainfield, which is just like a few houses away from here. Right. But you see districts like Newark receiving $16,000 per student. What do you, I mean, perhaps you've thought about this, perhaps you haven't thought about this, but you see arguments saying that, oh, well, throwing money at the problem solves the problem, but if you're spending $16,000 per student in Newark, not necessarily right. What's the return on return on investment? Would I say that Newark public schools are stellar? No,
they're not.
Absolutely not. I would actually say
the charter schools are pretty good.
The charter schools are pretty good, but I think Edison as a district is pretty darn good, and we're only receiving $600. We're only receiving about roughly $1,200-$1,300 a student, but that ends up being a large burden on the taxpayer. So we all say, we need to keep the students first, which is definitely true.
Correct.
But what are your feelings about keeping the taxpayer in scope as well?
Understood. It's a very good question you bring up, right? I mean, there's a huge gap there between Newark public schools and the public schools in Edison in our public school system here. My thoughts for this is, I have a couple of thoughts. So the first thought, I think, is when it comes to taxpayer money in Edison public school systems, they see that Edison is a very strong and robust public school system. So that's one of the reasons why many funds are not coming here, right? But
Agreed.
Again, that's not an excuse as to why we're not getting more funding, right? What I think we need to do is to work closely with the county level and the state level to receive that kind of funding. But how do we do that? Right? How do we do that? Edison public school system needs to create models. They need to create a business case almost, right?
Yeah.
As to a particular change that they need to make. For example, let me use an example. If we need to make a particular school enhancement or renovation, right? And we know for a fact that we've done everything we can in our ability as BOE and the school administration that our budget and our funds are appropriately utilized, and taxpayer money is still going up. We should bring that case to our state and our county level, and we should tell them, we've done from in our capacity as BOE members, as the school administration, everything we can to maximize the value of our taxpayers' dollars, but it's not in our case, and and taxes, we will need a higher budget and taxes will be increased. Right. If we go with a solid case to our county and state, we can tell them, hey, Edison public school system, great school system, but our taxes are going up. Our taxpayers are not happy. Our students are suffering. It builds a stronger case for us, right? Where we can bring in what we're facing and what we're enduring. And again, right, we need to step away from the silo aspect, and we need to work with our municipal team. We need to work with our county team. We need to work with our state team. It should be a synchronized fashion.
It should be.
Right?
Listen, it sounds wonderful in theory. I like that you think like this. We are not there because there's too many moving parts. There's too many people with too much, and these are my words, with other personal agendas. And I wish the Board of Ed was more like that. And with you being on the Board of Ed, I think it has a shot at doing it. But it'd be, listen, if we had a county team, a state team, and they were all working together, listen, we would have a new high school, a new elementary school, and we would have somebody that would be going down to the state house for us, fighting to get our money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
Exactly. So tell us about Election Day, okay? What column should they be voting?
So, Chris, Anthony, residents of our wonderful Edison Township, please remember to vote for column 3. That's column 3 for Yash Pandya. You know, let's bring the focus back to our students. Let's achieve the vision statement of our Edison Board of Education, which is, recite it with me, nothing less than excellence. So let's do that by bringing the focus back to our students. Let's create transparency for our taxpayers. Let's help us maximize their value, and let's start working as a united community in Edison, and let's start taking that to the next level with our municipal, our county, and our state.
How's the campaign going so far?
The campaign's going well so far. Sky's the limit. I still need to keep working hard. I need to speak to the
Do you like talking to people? Do you like
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely. I love talking to people. I've been engaging with parents over Zoom, over phone calls. You know, pandemic is happening at the moment,
Right.
so not a lot of face-to-face going on, but I think it's new for me, right, to speak digitally, but it's a good thing that's going well so far.
Let me just give you
Yeah.
a piece of advice.
Yeah.
Stay positive.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of rhetoric out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
People are they get nervous, others, and they go on the attack. If that happens, I don't know if it is or not, but if it don't ignore that noise. You are a bright young man. I think Chris would agree that
I
he is
totally agree.
extremely
Absolutely.
extremely polished. How old are you, Yash?
Take a guess.
Listen, I don't know, 23.
Add 2 to that, 25.
You're 25. 25.
25.
So you're 25 years old. That's listen, I wish I was 20. I was in Vegas in 25. I wasn't running for the Board of Education. But listen, keep up the good work. No matter what happens here, stay forward, keep focused. You have a future somewhere. And I hope it's in the Board of Education.
Thank you.
And Chris, I got to admit, I think this. I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed by.
Likewise, I would second everything that Anthony said. Stay positive, keep working hard, and there's a lot of things out there for people willing to work hard.
Absolutely.
And that's I would just keep it that simple.
Absolutely. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, advice. I've been through this once or twice. So, Chris, that's all I got for the young man. Yash Pandya, everybody. Yash Pandya. Column 3, right?
Column 3, Yash Pandya.
Column 3, Yash Pandya. I see your signs all over the place.
Yeah.
Nice, good-looking kid.
That's good.
Hey.
That's good.
25 years old, running for the Board of Education. Yeah. He's got a good head on his shoulders.
Good thing. Yash, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Yash.
Greatly appreciated. Hopefully you'll come back sometime soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Edison Now. Edison residents, please remember to vote for column 3. That's column 3 for Yash Pandya. Thank you.
All right.
All right. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into Edison Now. And as always, we'll catch you on the flip side.